Boom.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Best Darn Everything, our bi-weekly break from our weekly Simpsons show, where we take the time to talk about whatever we feel like talking about this week. And there's really only one thing that we could think of to talk about this week, and that is, of course, the Batman. Not Batman, mind you, but the Batman. And we've got some great guests joining us here today to help us along with that. But before we get to them, joining me, as always, your co-host with the most, the Richie the Whiz Kid. How you doing today, Rich?
Oh, you were so good up until that last moment.
I know, I felt it.
That might be your best introduction ever. We got guests. There's no reason for me to stand here talking. I'm just going to remain deceptively quiet about the topic for a few more minutes. I'll go ahead and throw it back to you, the man, the myth. He's not as smart as you thought he was. It's Miles.
Man, that's a low bar, honestly. I feel bad for anybody on that one. Guys, a couple of great guests joining us today. First, you will hear him alongside with me each and every Monday on the Camp/Horrorcast podcast. First time on this show, and we're very excited. Welcome, Ducky Wenzel. How are you today,
Yeah, Duck? Woo! Thank you. Thank y'all. Doing great. Cannot wait to shit on this movie. I think this is going to be a Western. Me against our next guest. Oh.
I love it. I love that it looks like Dan is trying to figure out how to reach through the Zoom call right now to get his arms around Duck's neck. Dan's been on the show before. We're glad to have him back. Welcome, Dan Danzy. How are you today, Dan?
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, flexing.
Doing good.
Very nice. Very nice.
Dan is the host of the Counting Lights comedy and wrestling podcast. They put on both wrestling shows and comedy shows and a podcast every week talking about the, when comedy and wrestling lock up.
The parallels of stand-up comedy and professional wrestling, how they're similar when it comes to like working the road, audience psychology, all the good stuff, and hitting your colleagues with chairs, which is something I have done many times. But yeah. Today we actually just became sponsored and monetized, so we're over here celebrating.
Hey,
wow.
Congratulations!
Congrats, dude. That's awesome.
Good for you.
But
Very
I'm
nice.
happy. I'm happy to be here, which is a much better podcast than mine.
Again, I feel so bad for the bar that is being set today, but I am excited about the conversation at hand today. We are talking about the Batman. I think first we're going to talk about everybody's kind of history with it and whatnot, but I think it's fair to say that everybody on this podcast right now loves Batman. Like there's something about Batman, be it the animated series, the comic books, the movies, whatever. There's something about it that everybody here has absolutely fallen in love with at some point in their life. I know I've had conversations with each of you, at least small, some with Dan quite a bit already, about our thoughts on the Batman and the previous Batman films. But I guess before we get started, Duck, what is your history with Batman in general?
Sure. My first encounter with Batman was the NES game. Of course, Nintendo Entertainment System, going back in the day. Yes, very, very difficult. And my neighbors were playing it, and I was like, well, what is this? And I remember seeing that bat symbol and just being blown away by it. Like what Dan just showed on his watch, that classic 89 bat symbol is where it is at. And then my next interaction would have been the commercials for the Batman Returns McDonald's toys that were eventually removed, and you couldn't get those because the movie was deemed too violent at the time. And I'd be shocked if they put out McDonald's toys for this movie because I think the same exact thing would happen. I love Batman. I really do. And I love all iterations of Batman. Batman 66 to this, not so much this, but I love Batman 66. I love Batman 89. I love even the damn Schumacher movies.
There just wasn't enough Bat Tootsie in this one for you?
Wasn't enough Bat Tootsies. I wanted some rainbow Batman costume. No, I mean, I look at it like Grant Morrison looks at it. All Batman exists across the range of his history. So, it starts with him being downtrodden and kind of detective noir, and then it goes into the 60s and 70s. He gets a little bit, frisky with it, and then it goes into the 80s where you get the Dark Knight and on and on. Like, it all exists within the canon of Batman. So I'm okay with every iteration of Batman. And one of the biggest things I feel like for this movie that was lacking was the joy of Batman. And that's what bothered the hell out of me about this movie. But we'll definitely get into it a little bit more. I will say, comic-wise, The Dark Knight Returns, of course, Long Halloween, Batman Year One, all the big ones I've at least read. Some of the smaller ones I have not. I read quite a bit of Grant Morrison's run on the Batman. Absolutely love it. There's a really cool split page where he does an art gallery where Batman's fighting some henchmen and in the background it has the Biff, Pow, Spliff, all that stuff like in the background. So it's pretty cool. But I would just say Batman for me, and I think all of us in this cast, we love it. So we want the best out of Batman.
Couldn't agree more with that last statement for sure. And I know firsthand because I was, I was at his place this Sunday. And I'll just say his room is decked out. Batman everywhere, Batman posters, Batman action figures. He's got a ridiculously highly rated copy of The Killing Joke sitting over his left shoulder right now. So obviously a huge fan. Dan, what's your history early on? What made you fall in love with the Bat?
Okay, so, and this isn't made up. You can ask my dad. My first word.
We're going to. We're going to call Mr. Danzy up on the line halfway through this.
I got this.
You can ask my father. My dad was wearing a Batman T-shirt as him and my mom were trying to get me to say either mom or dad, and I said Batman.
wait, is your dad actually Batman? Like, or mother? I'm sorry, it is 2022.
No. My dad is not Batman. He was a former pharmaceutical salesman. He was like the opposite of Batman.
Sounds like he was the Scarecrow.
Yeah. Dallas Buyers Club? That movie, The Enemy, is this pharmaceutical company. My dad worked for that pharmaceutical company.
Oh,
nice. So your dad killed Matthew McConaughey is what you're trying to say.
That's all I could. So my first word was Batman, and the earliest I remember was like the movie in 1989. My parents wouldn't allow me to watch it because I was too young. But then Batman the Animated Series came out, and Batman the Animated Series just started it all. Then I was jumping on Batman 1989. Then I was reading the comic books, Long Halloween, all that. That was 96. I was so happy when Long Halloween came out. I was actually one of the youngest in the comic book store to get it. I think it was like 9.
You would have been like 8 when you,
8 or 9. I was reading the comic books in the 90s. I even got a copy of some Neil Adams. My brother was helping me. My brother was helping me with all these great comic book writers, and I was reading some pretty dark shit out of the Batman universe from the 70s and 80s. All the way up to the 90s, and just never stopped. Saw Batman Forever 4 or 5 times before I became an adult and was able to see the holes in that movie, but I still love Batman
Forever.
love
that movie, dude. I'll argue with people tooth and nail that Batman Forever is a great version of Batman.
Because the script's written for Tim Burton, not Joel Schumacher, and Joel Schumacher was limited. Like, Joel Schumacher couldn't put
that was still like the hybrid. That was like the hybrid between Schumacher and Burton versus Batman and Robin. They're like, okay, we let Joel off the rails a little too much. Some people argue that that's how Tim Burton was with Batman Returns, though. That's my favorite of the 90s Batman movies. For what it's worth.
Some people say that Batman and Robin's a very cool movie.
Very nice.
Are you running for governor of California by chance?
Yeah.
So Dan's a diehard fan going back early age. Impressive first word. Mine was up for what it's worth. So you crushed me on syllables and length.
You love that Pixar movie though, right?
Yeah. I predicted years before it came out that was going to sail. But Richie, we haven't really talked a lot about the Batman, but you and I have had many conversations about Batman in general over the years and many iterations. But go ahead and tell the people what your history of Batman is.
I remember watching. It was
his first word. He swears. We'll tell his dad right now.
I remember watching the first movie with my dad as a kid and running to school the next day and trying to pick everybody up by their shirt collars and be like, tell all your friends about me. And when you're in like preschool, that doesn't play very well. But I also, my dad was showing me the Adam West series all the time. After school, I'd get home. It was on TV and we were watching it. So I was learning all these different villains. I was so confused how they pulled off Bruce Wayne standing next to Batman when they tried to figure out that he was Bruce Wayne. But I just remember I had this toy Batman, and I had this really long red rope string looking thing. It wasn't an actual rope. It was basically like a big fat string, and I would throw it around things and act like I was climbing buildings as Batman and Robin. And I don't know why this is in my mind, but I remember one time my dad was driving me somewhere and I had the window down and I was holding out the string out the window like I was letting Robin climb in behind me, and the string flew out of my hand and I was so upset. I like wanted to tell my dad to turn around to go find the piece of string that flew out of my hand that I'd had for like a week, but I didn't do that because I understood it was just a piece of string. But for some reason that memory has always been engraved in my head. And
sounds like you got PTSD over
I know,
there.
right?
Yeah.
I left Robin behind. I mean,
That's like a dark origin story, dude. Like next year sometime, it seems like he's gonna you're gonna start getting mysterious letters. It's gonna be from that Robin.
It'd be a good Batman story.
That string was Jason Todd, and you just like.
But you know, much like the DC universe, they should probably just get rid of Robin altogether.
Comics.
I don't.
I just wanted to throw something controversial out there. Nightwing's cool.
Did you read the comics at all?
I don't remember. I feel like I read The Long Halloween at one point. I just honestly don't remember. Just for how old I'm getting, my memory's starting to get faded a little bit, man.
Reasonable. And plus, you have so much of your memory occupied with the haunting of that Robin figure. So
exactly.
For me, my earliest memories of Batman was actually watching like reruns of the 1960s Batman show. It came on in like the afternoon, and like burned in my memory would be that like they'd be like stuck in an hourglass or some various trap. And
your time is up.
Oh no, it's gonna be fatal, and then it's like better tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, which was very confusing to me as a kid because I was watching reruns and they played 2 back to back. So sometimes it'd be like, I have to wait a whole week. And then they'd be like, oh no, we're going to give it to you right now. And I'd be like, great, that was perfect. It fucked with my sense of like, patience for cliffhangers and whatnot. But
plus,
then
he's got glass repellent in his bat suit, so you can just spray that on the glass and get
bat glass repellent. Thank you.
Oh, the shark repellent was the best.
Shark repellent.
Shark repellent was where it was at.
Ducky brought up the McDonald's toys for Batman Returns, and yeah, dude, that was quite the transition. Even I remember as a kid because I was way hyped about Batman Returns. Probably even before I ended up seeing the original Batman, because that was the one that was like being like promoted, McDonald's toys, all that good stuff. And I still love Batman Returns to this day, which was one of the things that I was kind of interested with this movie, The Batman, that we're going to transition into because of the portrayal of the Penguin. And while both are vastly, vastly different, they're both incredible in their own right. As far as the comics go, like all comic books in general, I brought up when we talked about Spider-Man and other properties. I've never been like a comic reader in the sense that like I was never one that like, I don't know if it was like my parents just wouldn't spend the money or I never had the opportunity to pick them up cheap, but like I definitely was never one that like read like entire series. I would be lucky to get like a comic book here or there, and usually I would pick either Batman, the X-Men, or Spider-Man. And it would just be like a random book in whatever storyline. I'd have no idea what was going on. I just, really loved turning those pages and following along for a short time. So I had none of the prior knowledge of like The Long Halloween. Never read that before seeing The Batman. Seeing it the first time, I knew that it was going to be a darker experience, which I'm usually all for. And the first time through, I really enjoyed the movie. I've seen it twice now, and I'm going to talk about my opinion on it for sure. But before we get to my opinion, I'm just going to put it out here. I know that Ducky strongly did not care for the movie. Danzy is, if it doesn't win Academy Awards, he's rioting. I honestly need to start here. I usually would start with our guest, but I've got to start with Richie because I have no idea what Richie thought about this movie, and I'd love to hear what you had to say, man.
All right.
Oh, I hope this is split. I hope it is split so badly.
So here is my take on the Batman. I think this movie was cast exceptionally well. I think there are a lot of great people and great spots in this movie. everyone told me before I saw it, and like literally I saw it the first weekend it was out, but everyone's like, it's noir, it's noir, it's noir, it's the detective story. And I really feel like it was in a way, but it kind of wasn't at the same time. There's too many characters in this movie. And I get with a great detective story, you need them to throw it off where it's like, you think it's this person, you think it's this person, you think it's this person. But I've realized something after watching this movie. Like, again, I love the whole like Batman in year 2 idea, because like even him, like the you expect him to come flying around, but no, he's got a wingsuit on and he's terrible at it because he hasn't done it yet. He makes
a lot of mistakes. Yeah.
He's got these boots on that don't look quite right. You're Bruce Wayne. Why don't you have like a better motorcycle? But then you're like, oh yeah, he's still figuring all this out. And I like that approach to it. I think Paul Dano was the best character in this movie. I think the best scene in the movie was when him and Batman are talking, and when he's behind bars, and that monologue he does right there, I think is the best scene in the movie. And I feel like the film is hurts because he doesn't get the kind of time that Heath Ledger got in The Dark Knight. Like he's got these videos, but like he's such a good actor. I feel like they could have capitalized more on that. And I feel like honestly, it's one of those things where I had a hard time disagreeing with Paul Dano's character up until the climactic battle at the end, where I was like, okay, now you've gone too far. You're killing innocent people. Maybe you've gone too far at this point, but like he might have somewhat been in the right before. So that's my positives. And I thought Robert Pattinson, he was a fine Bruce Wayne, fine Batman. My negative stuff is that I've realized after watching this movie that I don't want another Batman movie for a while. I'm on Batman overload right now. They've redone all the same characters. This is how many times have I seen Catwoman done and the Joker done in the last 5-10 years? Like, do something different. How many times do I've been saying Carmine Falcone. I've been saying his name so much in my head I can't remember it anymore. I don't want to see him in another movie. I know you're going to be involved somehow. You're always involved. That's like bringing freaking Norman Osborn in a Spider-Man movie. Like, something's going to go on there. It's boring to me. I don't want to see that anymore. But to bring it back around, like I feel like having the Penguin in this movie was excessive. He served no purpose in this movie except to set him up as taking over the business at the end. Like and he had one funny line in there when he's arguing with them about, you guys don't speak Spanish? Come on now. Like, and that was funny.
But what about when they tied him up and he actually waddled like a penguin? That was
I saw. Yeah, I know, but like that's a little too on the nose there. So I felt like I got bored at moments because I was like, I'm not worried for Batman in the scene. And like one of the most exciting scenes in the movie is when all the police officers in that small cell with him were trying to take his mask off, and I was like, oh fuck. All right, we're going to throw it down with some cops. But like, again, I felt like the movie was cast very well. I feel like I'm almost on Batman overload right now in this day and age. Jeffrey Wright, amazing Commissioner Gordon.
Hell yeah.
That's what I'll end with. I really enjoyed Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon.
I agree with a lot.
Saving that up for like 4 days.
There. Yeah, do you feel relieved there? A little weight off the chest?
I think I need a cat nap.
I'm gonna toss it over. I know Dan has a lot to say, and I'm excited to hear it. But I'm gonna give it to Ducky next, just because Ducky also had a somewhat negative opinion, and then I think Dan is going to respond to both of you.
Well, I feel like I loved a lot, I liked a lot, I disliked a lot, and I hated a lot. So it's across the board. This movie was a 5 to 6 out of 10 for me, and it's interesting. Richie's saying that, there are a lot that he didn't like about it. The one thing I had a problem with is it's so fucking long. It does not need to be 3 hours long. They could have condensed so much of this into 2 hours and 20 minutes. And to ask us to sit
I legit don't know where you would make those cuts. We talked about this earlier. I've seen it twice, and neither time did I think it felt too long.
Long
shots.
Should
have gotten rid of Catwoman, and it would have been fine.
Yeah, well, I didn't have a problem with Catwoman.
I think she did a good job, though.
I didn't have a problem with her. My biggest issue, and I don't want to piggyback off of what Richie said, is the Riddler. He liked the Riddler, whereas I despise this representation of the Riddler. The only thing I liked about it was the Zodiac stuff, which I thought was interesting. The fact that they used the Zodiac killer, and also who killed JFK? I can't remember who killed Oswald, right?
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah, where they
allegedly.
Actually,
where they had him in the where they had him in the
kind of ties into this movie itself in a roundabout way. Yeah,
they had that shot. They had that shot of him in the apartment window, and I was like, "That's directly pulled from the book depository or whatever it is." But I really didn't like the Riddler. I didn't like basically for me, he was just a very bad impression of Heath Ledger's Joker with his being outrageous all the time. Like the Joker at work, Heath Ledger, he pulled back when he needed to pull back, but he did have this sporadic burst of energy. Whereas they're doing the exact same thing. They're using the camera phone. They're having him on the other side of it, holding people hostage. Like it was too much. And then at first I was like, it was cool because he was very sardonic and very low key. And I thought that was scary. But then all of a sudden he's like, oh, you're going to live. Rah, rah, and he's just pulling a Javito, if you know Javi from my podcast. And he's just yelling shit. And then he goes, goodbye. I was like, come on, guys. And then it plays into that cameo at the end where they're like, we're friends. I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous. And I get it. The villains were over the top villains. Even the Penguin was over the top. But that portrayal of the Penguin I thought was aces. I really enjoyed it. I thought Colin Farrell was one of my favorite.
I loved all the villains in this movie, though. Like that's one thing we're going to disagree on.
Yeah, and I did not like the Riddler, and that's something that whenever your main villain is, you can't get behind them, you can't enjoy them. That takes a lot away from the movie for me. And so the movie was too long. I literally got bored. I was texting in the third act. I'm just like, why isn't it over yet? Like,
why are you texting in a theater, Ducky? We're gonna change this to reprimanding you for that during this podcast.
That's fine. My phone was at the lowest setting it could be on.
It's still bright as fuck. I hate those people.
I was in the back row. It's safe. But also just a lot of like the mystery of the riddles. Like the riddles were not interesting to me at all. Like you didn't know what a rat with wings was. Like everyone knows. I saw Batman Forever. I know what a rat with wings is because it was in that fucking movie too. And just like there was some. I'm just across the board. There were stuff I enjoyed, and I can nitpick more, but I really want to get to what Dan has to say because I want to hear the good in it, and I want to see the good in it because I'm a glass half full kind of guy. So I want to be won back by his perspective, and I am going to see it again this weekend. So we'll see how I feel about it. But for right now,
survive another 3 hours.
I'm going to text like crazy through it. I'm just going to sit in the back and send people messages.
No, I yelled at somebody in my theater last night to put their phone away because they were texting during the movie.
Well, I will say there is one thing.
Reason smiles.
The one thing I would have changed, and I think that my experience was tainted by this. There was somebody next to me eating popcorn, going the whole fucking movie, and I think that kind of tainted it. And that's not the movie's fault. That's that patron's fault. But I also think they might have been retarded, so I didn't say anything. Just throwing that out there.
All right, I'm done. Out there. Okay. This is who I'm debating. Okay.
I also say quite a bit. So here we go.
Oh my god!
All right.
Well, we've been waiting to be canceled for 6 years.
Trigger warning for Batman fans.
This was a fun podcast, gentlemen.
All right, on to Danzy, right?
Yeah, that's the idea.
Where do I start? First of all, I think it's the greatest Batman movie ever made, next to Batman 1989. The reason I think it's the best Batman movie up to 1989, and this is what it is. It is basically 5 minutes in. I knew I was in for a different Batman movie when the mayor is on the phone and he walks off screen, the lightning flashes, and there's fucking Riddler's silhouette. That freaked me the fuck out. That made me squirm. I put away my phone because I was planning to like live tweet making fun of it because I wanted to hate this because I had gotten such a bad taste in my mouth over The Dark Knight Rises, over Batfleck, all that shit that I was just ready. But that little part giving me what type of vibe I was in made me put my phone away and pay attention. And I agree with Richie. And I'll go a step further. You take anyone out of a role in this movie and replace them with somebody else, the movie's not the same. Everybody does such a good job in this movie. They seem born to play the role. I think we can all agree on that.
Except for Ducky.
Well, no. So Ducky said something earlier. Ducky said something earlier that caught my ear. You said there wasn't a joyous element to the Batman, correct, Ducky?
Excluding the ending, wherever he said, "I'm no longer vengeance, I become hope." That was the one point where I was like, I'm cool with that, except for he said it really wordy because this movie was pedantic as fuck.
Gotcha. So I want to ask you a question because you named off some of the comic books that you read. Where is the joy in the Long Halloween?
The joy comes within the Rogues Gallery, and that's my issue with this movie. The Rogues Gallery, Batman as a character himself, yes, joyless. That's understandable. He doesn't, unless you go to 66 Batman, where he's doing, like you said, the tutu earlier. Okay. The joy comes within the Rogues Gallery, and this Rogues Gallery was joyless. Catwoman was just morbid as fuck the whole movie. The Riddler was beyond morbid and just, like crazy, but not crazy in a fun way. Crazy and
he was eating a piece of pie. That's joyous.
Oh, I guess you're right. Yeah, and he did draw in
that's actually not true. He had just ordered.
He just ordered it,
pie,
but he was happy about it.
It didn't get delivered yet.
He was happy about it.
That's why I love the Penguin in this, though, because he is joyous. He's fun. He's an interesting character to watch. I think that's an Oscar-worthy performance from Colin Farrell. I really do. Sorry, go ahead.
Where is the joy in The Killing Joke?
The Killing Joke, the joy comes from the Joker raping Commissioner Gordon. I'm just joking. The joy.
I was like, what the fuck?
The joy comes in the third act of The Killing Joke when you see him.
I had no idea that our most controversial guest today was going to be Ducky Wenzel.
Oh my God! Wait till you have my buddy Jake. All of our buddy Jake on. Just wait. The point is, the third act of The Killing Joke, I find it very fun whenever he's taking Commissioner Gordon throughout that fun house. And I think so even more so within the animated version of it when they're actually singing to him. That wasn't implied in the comic that I remember. But like, I think seeing the Freak Show is fun. I think that is really interesting.
So wait, your joyous moment in The Killing Joke is one of the most morbid moments in the comic book.
But done in a fun way.
Next to Commissioner Gordon's daughter being shot. Okay. The reason I think any amount of joy would have ruined this movie because Year 2 Batman is not supposed to be a joyous journey. Year 2 Batman is brutal. Everything, like what Richie said, he doesn't even know how to work his technology. He puts on a flying squirrel suit. He actually hesitated.
He looks scared. I actually, when I noticed the second time watching through, he gets a look of horror on his face as he almost falls over the ledge, and then he's just like, "Well, I got to do it."
Did you guys like the squirrel suit? I didn't like that either.
I did like the squirrel suit. I thought that was dope.
It is Year 2 Batman. He has not designed it to look like a bat yet. He hasn't even used the thing,
His bat symbol doesn't really look like the bat symbol. It looks like a jagged piece of metal that they've put over a spotlight.
Yeah. I don't feel it was supposed to be joyous. Now, as far as the movie itself, and the reason I'm having trouble understanding people not liking it is because it is in the structure and the story formula of The Long Halloween. It literally starts on Halloween.
Yeah.
And it goes through like, hey, here's a murder. Here's the villain. But there's so much more than just a murder and a villain. There's so much more to it.
Even more so dealing with the crime family, the Falcone, crime family, that's what The Long Halloween is. It has the Rogues Gallery, but it has to do more with the mafia stuff. And so Batman Begins up until now, they've always taken inspiration from The Long Halloween in Year 1. That has been the two main inspirations. And you could say maybe The Killing Joke here and there a little bit, but they're always trying to do that. And then the Affleck version took inspiration from The Dark Knight Returns. But for me, I like that, and that's why I like Falcone in this. I like the crime family stuff. I thought the fact that he was the mayor and it was an underground thing was cool. It's just
I love this. The dude from Rounders too. It's
John Turturro, right?
Yeah,
John Turturro. It's also like people are saying. I've seen the same people complain about the length of this movie while praising the Zack Snyder Justice League, which is almost 4.5 hours long. So not you. Okay.
Not me.
This movie had lots of layers to it. We already established the Year 2 Batman thing, but also his relationship with Alfred. They're at this.
Yeah.
That was very
the Bruce Wayne in this was a very different Bruce Wayne than we've seen in previous Batman incarnations, and I really liked it.
He's accepted death already in this one, or he thinks he has. So that's
what it is. He thinks he has. He has it. He thinks he has.
Yeah. He's telling.
I'm here for it. I'm here for emo Batman. I like the Devil's
thing. That's the thing. It's not emo Batman. It is a.
It's totally emo Batman.
It's a heavily focused Bruce Wayne becoming Batman to the point so much that he's ignoring what he could do with the Wayne side of things. He totally ignores that.
And anytime we see him as Bruce Wayne, he almost looks gaunt, just like he's barely there. He's not even really alive. Yeah,
it's what the Riddler said. It's Bruce Wayne is the mask, which they've said in other Batman.
Yeah, when they have that, and I agree with you, Richie, that that monologue is one of the most powerful scenes in the movie, and when he says that to him, it's like the way that Robert Pattinson it hits him too. It's an incredible scene, and I think that portrayal of Bruce Wayne further shows just how true that is.
Now,
I just love that moment where he yells Bruce Wayne over and over again. You're like, oh fuck, he figured it out.
Yeah, dude.
But Batman never gives it away, and then at the end when he sidesteps that, you're like, oh, fuck.
That's the second time in the movie that he looks truly scared. Like it's when he's about to jump off the building, and then when he first says Bruce Wayne, he's like, oh fuck. But like
I thought they were pulling a No Way Home thing.
Like, he doesn't do
I liked him knowing who Batman was, rather than Joseph Gordon-Levitt in Dark Knight Rises just being like, oh yeah, no, you're fucking Batman. I know an orphan. I
absolutely hate The Dark Knight Rises. I was in a long conversation about this last night. It's my least favorite Batman film by far. And I actually want to respond to all three of you again, because I've seen this twice now, and I definitely have thoughts, but something I meant to do earlier, and I'd like to catch up and do it real quick. Very quickly, everybody, let's go through and say your favorite 3 Batman movies before the Batman came out. So if we had asked you last week what your favorite 3 Batman movies would have been, I recently listed mine. Mine is The Dark Knight, Batman Returns, and then Batman 1989. Dan, I know you already have yours ready, so I'll let you go next, and we'll end on Richie because you look stressed.
Batman 1989. I would say, Batman 1989, Batman Returns, and I'll throw in The Dark Knight, even though I think there's another number 3 in there.
That's the 3 you just told me is what you told me on Sunday for what it's
worth. But I really liked Batman Forever, but I just can't justify putting it in the top 3 when you have a Heath Ledger Joker performance that carries that whole movie in The Dark Knight, really.
But Jackie, what about you?
I'm just going to mimic what you guys said. 89 Returns, The Dark Knight, and I'm going to throw in a special appearance by Batman 66 movie, because I really, really like that movie because of the Rogues Gallery.
And Rich, what about you?
I'll switch it up and use blasphemy here and do Dark Knight, 89 Batman, and then Batman Forever, because I watched Batman Forever more than any other one. That's
true for me as
a kid, seeing an actor you knew, 2 actors you knew playing the villains. Jim Carrey was the shit to me as a kid in that movie, and I actually liked Val Kilmer back when I was younger and all that stuff too. So I enjoyed all that. But as an adult, I feel like my mind would change, but I haven't watched the movie in over 10 years.
I want to piggyback off something we were just talking about, the scene with Riddler in the prison. It's whenever he's saying, basically what he's saying is, you complete me. And that same sentiment was said by Heath Ledger's Joker. Literally, you complete me. That's what I'm saying, is he is a pale comparison to Heath Ledger's Joker. There are so many similarities between the acting, the over-the-topness, the going back and forth, his up until the setting the bombs out. Now, Heath Ledger's Joker gave the city a choice to, explode the bombs or do it themselves, whereas this version of the villain didn't. But it just seems so similar in so many ways, and it's just a pale comparison for
me. May I interject on that for a second?
Sure.
I think that's. They are similar, the "you complete me" stuff, but you got to remember, all these villains might as well say that to Batman, because those villains are inspired by Batman. This all starts when those people who are already on the edge of reality see Batman on TV and say, I can be that, but so much more with my own agenda and my own ideals, blah, blah. And then they just go and take it elsewhere. Joker does.
To some extent, it's like every villain of Batman's is just the other side of the coin. And even like with Two-Face, it's quite literal. Like they even take it like a step farther. So I hear your complaint, Ducky, but I kind of agree that.
But not all the Rogues Gallery that way. Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy's not that way. Harley Quinn's not that way.
But Mr. Freeze's motivation is just different than, Wreck and Gotham. Mr. Freeze's motivation is bringing his wife back to life. But it's when he sees Batman where he's like, oh, I got to do what I need to do.
Batman is more of a nuisance to Mr. Freeze than anything. He's just something he's got to get through. Yeah.
Richie, what were you going to say?
Something you get, this movie isn't just a year two for Bruce Wayne and Batman. This is I took it as a year two for Riddler as well. He's literally he's done all the stuff with stuff he bought off eBay. I don't know, that's what I enjoyed about it. It was
I'm pretty sure it was the Gotham Army surplus store, sir. They said it in the chat.
And that's why the riddles aren't as clever. That's why the riddles
he's finding his footing. And he thought Batman was going to join him. When Batman's like, I'm not going to be with you. And that's when he starts getting over the top screaming no.
Well, and if you go back to the beginning of the film where Batman's not the beginning with the Riddler, the introduction to Batman in this movie where it's narrating, he's talking about the darkness being an ally. We get all those psych outs where it just shows dark alleys and criminals are just afraid of the darkness. That really does set up the whole vengeance thing. We hear Batman referred to as Vengeance more in this movie than we hear him referred to as Batman. And it seems like even some criminals more know of him as a myth than they know of him as a human or a person at this point. And I do see that on that regard, that also ties in with your year two Riddler theory, because Riddler doesn't really know who this person is. He just sees that, oh, this guy is getting scumbags off the street. I too want to get scumbags off the street. I just want to do it in a more powerful way.
In the political offices, yeah.
I absolutely love them being afraid of the shadows. I thought that was amazing.
Oh my God.
I thought the first act of this movie was aces, minus Batman walking into the crime scenes with everyone there. Batman works within the shadows. It would have been better if he was at the crime scenes after the fact with Commissioner Gordon with a flashlight and having
I love that POV shot when he's walking in. You just get all the cops, their gaze goes from kind of bored to almost oh fuck, what is happening right now? That shot is so cool, man.
Also, it has to show. I mean, they had to show why Jim Gordon was pissing everybody off by involving Batman. And I mean, they're still young in their relationship, but Batman has done enough to earn Gordon's trust. And Gordon's not even commissioner at this point. Gordon shouldn't even be doing what he's doing, but he trusts Batman so much that he's willing to put his job on the line in front of a whole crooked department. So I think it was important for Batman just to walk up in there with Gordon and be like, all right, what's going on?
Yeah, I always feel like Batman's a character that works better in the shadows. And so going from that to having him in full lighting and like I said, just having him out there and it's surrounded by, just civilians, it just seemed weird to me. But I do want to talk about something I absolutely loved about this movie, the soundtrack. The soundtrack is fucking amazing. The fact that they were able to take Nirvana's Something in the Way, which is actually, isn't it a cover of a Beatles song? And so they were able to take that and actually turn it into the Batman's theme, I thought was absolutely astounding. And the character of Bruce Wayne in this / Batman, which there's not a big difference between the two other than, like you said, the gauntness, because he is the Batman, is based upon Kurt Cobain, which I'm not sure how, but they took heavy inspiration. So that for the Riddler, they took inspiration from Nirvana's music, and like I said, the Zodiac Killer. But I love the soundtrack the whole time. Every character had their own theme, and they were simplistic themes. They were 3 to 5 note montages where they would play off of them. And whereas what they did in The Dark Knight, where they just took that violin scratching for the Joker's theme, they did kind of the same for this, where they would start playing Selena Kyle's theme, or they start playing the Riddler's theme with the music box in the background. And the soundtrack stuck with me, and I walked away from this movie thinking I would listen to that soundtrack.
The car chase scene in particular, the way they incorporate the actual car noises, because the car backfiring actually syncs up with the percussion of the Batman theme.
It was amazing in theater. My seat was shaking. I was certain things happen, I was like, whoa.
I'm usually not one that pays extra for the XD experience. This is an XD worthy movie. Absolutely. Or whatever your theater's brand of premium theater experiences. I want to respond to all of you for a minute and share my thoughts a little bit. I saw it twice again. The first time I saw it, I was very, very much in sync or close to in sync with what Richie had to say about the film. Maybe not all the way, because there are certain things he said that you're tired of that I'm frankly just not. I will admit, at one point, one of you brought up Batfleck. I completely just wipe him from my Batman chronology. It's not that I don't like, I do like Ben Affleck. I just haven't liked any of his appearances as Batman in any of the films that he's been in. So I don't even really think about him when I'm thinking about movie related Batmans. It doesn't even enter my mind. So for me, when you're like, oh, we get too much Batman all the time, I'm like, really? I haven't seen the Batman since The Dark Knight, because The Dark Knight Rises doesn't fucking count. But as I'm watching the Batman the first time, I didn't necessarily have the right expectation, because I had also been told, like Richie said, that it's a detective film, it's a noir film, it's not like any other Batman film you've seen. And I really can't express how true that is. Like, it really is like a very different experience. Somebody actually was trying to have a conversation with me where they brought up the Joker, and almost how I exclude the Joker, which I love that film. I think it's a great film, but I don't talk about that film when I'm talking about Batman movies, because it's like an outlier. I almost felt that way, the same way about the Batman the first time I saw it, because it doesn't have the fun like Ducky was talking about that like your Batman Returns or your Batman Forever has. Definitely not Batman and Robin stuff. The lighting is so dark, which is a common complaint, actually, and I want to bring that up as we talk about the common complaints and address them here in a little bit. But it's just a very different experience. But ultimately, when I got done, I was like, yeah, that was good. But I was still kind of considering it to be lesser than The Dark Knight. Not living up to that portrayal, and for a lot of the reasons with the Riddler of what Ducky said, quite honestly. However, I went back and I watched it again last night, and I think a lot of it was a combination of two things. One, my expectations after having already seen it are going to be vastly different. I now know what to expect. I also know the ending. I know the twist, and I know what to look for. So I was able to pick up on a lot more foreshadowing than I was able to the first time. And one of the things I'm just going to throw out that I thought was a fantastic thing that like makes so much literal weight to the film that like you don't think about the first time you're seeing it, or at least I didn't. It is raining in almost every single shot, which means if you know how it's going to end, that means that is literally just a ticking time bomb building up, getting more and more. So that by the time that happens, like that storm has literally been brewing in every scene you've watched for the entire film. There's only a couple of times where it's not raining, and it's like specifically on top of that construction site with Catwoman and Batman.
It's almost like it's almost like the weathermen in Gotham or like the weathermen in Dallas, and they don't fucking report it. So then when he floods the city, it's just like, oh shit, yeah, it was raining the whole time. That's our bad, guys.
Yeah. But yeah, the second time through, I felt like Richie's complained about too many characters. I had a small feeling of that the first time, but after seeing it the second time, I completely disagree. I think the Penguin's was perfectly set up because he was barely involved in this movie, but the sequences he was involved in were very much important to this storyline, but also furthermore setting up the future movies, which I think is also why I disagree with you on the Joker and Riddler scene in jail and all that, because this is now setting up. And admittedly, a lot of this is because I've nerded out like crazy in between the first viewing and the second viewing. So I've picked up on a lot of Easter eggs and things that I just didn't know about the first time that made me enjoy it more. But the second movie is now already set up for another straight out of the comics story where the Riddler can run things from jail, introduce the character of Hush, who I know very little about, but I'm super stoked about. And my favorite part, the Penguin is now set up to run a city that is underwater. A flightless bird known for being in the water is set up to run a city that is underwater. That is fucking brilliant.
Which we will see in the Penguin TV show on HBO Max.
I didn't even know that was happening.
That's
crazy.
Mm-hmm. That's what the show's going to be about. The Penguin from the end of the first movie rising up to power. And then I think we're getting an Arkham show that's going to be more horror-based. That's going to explain what's going on in Arkham with all the characters from the Batman universe and Matt Reeves' take on it.
There's one more thing I have to say on that, and then we can talk about some of the other stuff. But somebody mentioned the Joker, or they did not like the scene where the Riddler was talking with the Joker at the end. That the director of this movie did say there is a cut scene from the film that made that a little bit more relevant that I thought sounded really interesting. And that was that Batman was at one point in a almost Silence of the Lambs type of visiting Hannibal Lecter type of setup. Batman was actually supposed to be meeting with the Joker in the original cut to kind of like basically be like, hey, I'm struggling with this Riddler guy. You know, how can you help me catch him? And it was almost going to be like a mutual respect because we didn't see it, but year one Batman essentially put Joker there. And year two Batman respects his mind enough to know that he could be an asset.
Why do we need? Why are we just doing this because of the brand of the Joker? That's the part.
Well, the Joker. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I'm not going to be as fine tuned on all the Batman details as everybody else. I'm probably the odd man out in this scenario. But again, we've seen the Joker so much. Do something different, please.
So I just hard disagree on that.
I have a response to that. So I'm this ultra nerd right here. At the there was no post-credit scene, but at the end of the credits, the URL for Rada Lada popped up, and if you go to the URL and crack the code, you could see what we're in for the next movie. I'm not entirely sure that the Joker is going to be in the next movie. Because if the internet figured it out, I thought I'd solved it, but I missed one little detail. Basically, what happens when you go to this website is a bunch of coding pops up on the screen. If you translate the coding, it is a lot of classic Batman comics from the 40s and the 80s and the 70s. A lot of these Batman titles feature characters that were in the Batman, but the very last one is Batman number 258, October 1974, Two-Face escapes from Arkham. And basically what the internet's saying, plus there's like a picture that the Riddler that you have to decipher, and it's basically the Riddler saying, you think I'm finished, but perhaps you don't know the full truth. Every ending is a new beginning. Something is coming. A lot of people are led to believe that we will actually get Hush and Two-Face in the next movie. Maybe little appearances from the Riddler, maybe the Joker, but that seems to be
I bet it'll be revealed at the end of the next movie that the Riddler and the Joker were the masterminds of it, but they were just kind of like an off-screen thing.
Well, the director himself has been talking about Mr. Freeze, and you got a city underwater. What would be better than a city that's an ice cube? So that's what the director has been saying, that he wants to do Mr. Freeze in the next movie. And I honestly wasn't convinced at the end that it was the Joker.
That's the part I was trying to figure out.
Yeah. Was it the Joker or was it Two-Face being in the shadows? Now with the
he said the word clown in a very but
that could be to throw it away. It was to throw you off.
It was confirmed by the actor that it was Joker.
Well, I was going to say, what did the credit say? What was that actor credit?
Joker says, not Joker, but the credits say man who can't be seen in Arkham, or like hidden man in Arkham.
Yeah, and so, but the actor himself, I believe he had said that he was, like Danzy said, the Joker. But I don't know if I like this iteration of the Joker. I haven't seen it enough, and I didn't like the laugh. I didn't like the voice. I really wasn't behind it. Now, if you're looking at a rogues gallery of multiple villains, like we had in this, which was really cool, you're just going to add on. That's totally fine with me. And you don't want to treat the Joker with the iconic status that he has and get like the best actor to play him. That's fine with me too. Or change the actor out. That's totally okay. People hated Heath Ledger being cast as the Joker initially. You know what I mean? And he ended up winning an Oscar posthumously, or however, obviously
posthumously.
Thank you so much. I can't talk. I'm not a smart man. Let's talk about one thing that we haven't talked about, if you guys don't mind. The Batmobile chase scene.
Hell yeah.
That was awesome. And they don't do anything too big or too bombastic other than a giant fire at the end. But it's something about the brute force of that car being grounded within a reality that just made it so intriguing to me. And the sound design of this movie is so good. Like, if they're going to win Oscars, which I think they will, it's going to be for the score, the sound design, the cinematography, possibly best supporting for the Penguin.
And Best Picture.
That never happened. You know what? You never know. You never know. Matt Reeves is a darling of the Hollywood machine. So.
Well, no, I honestly do believe Best Picture, not because it's a Batman movie. I mean, you take Batman out of this movie, it is still, it's a great film for all the reasons you just said. Great score, great cinematography, great sound design. It's great editing. The editing in that movie is absolutely fucking amazing.
I would have.
I think you forgot that we have Aquaman 2 about to come out, sir.
Yes.
That's another thing.
What's better than being a king, Dan?
With this movie, I think we can all say this. Who gives a fuck about Aquaman and who gives a fuck about Black Adam? Because these movies are not going to be like that. I mean, if you love the character, sure. But these movies are not going to be what this movie was, to me at least.
No,
but they shouldn't be, because that's not the style of movie you want for those characters.
Well, no, I'm talking about the great score and the cinematography and just the quality that was this as a film, not just a Batman movie, but as a film. I think Aquaman.
The thing that worked.
Go ahead.
The thing that, I complain about there being too many villains in this movie, but the thing that worked for me about the villains in this movie is that they were all real. Like, it's not like they all had superpowers.
Yeah, it was a very grounded Batman film. Like, for the most part,
the Flash and Aquaman and Black Adam, all the opposing forces have to have abilities, or else it would just be a kill fest. Like, yep, you're all gone. Bye.
Yeah, just a rich man in a suit.
But I think we're just going to see more of the same out of those movies. You know, big superhero action scenes and maybe
lots of CGI,
lots of comedy lines and one-liners, and then The Rock flexing. I don't want to see Black Adam.
He's probably going to smell something at some point.
He's going to smell. He's definitely going to raise that fucking eyebrow. He's definitely going to raise that. But, so with this movie, it almost felt like it wasn't the DC. It almost felt like DC had nothing to do with it. That's how good it was for me.
That kind of loosely ties into something I wanted to bring up anyway, and that is that this is a very, very dark film. And I don't mean like dark as in the subject matter. I mean, literally, it is like not a lot of light on the screen a lot of the times. One of my favorite scenes is entirely shot by gunshot. Like, if the gun isn't firing, it is pitch black on screen.
That was a good scene.
I've seen that both listed as something people are praising the movie for. I've also seen people making a lot of jokes and critiques that the film is too dark. They couldn't see what was going on. What do y'all think about that?
I think it depends. No. I think it depends on where you went to see it. I went to go see it at the Alamo Drafthouse. I was able to see everything just fine. I know a lot of people that didn't catch that silhouette of the Riddler that I was talking about when the lightning.
Yeah, I only saw his eyes.
Are you talking about at the very beginning?
At the very beginning, when that lightning struck, it was full body for me. But I think I was talking to you, Miles, and you didn't see it. So maybe
I saw it. I 100% saw it.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
So I think it all depended on what movie theater you saw it at. Because as someone who used to work at a movie theater, there are times when you get like a film and the movie operators, they have to adjust lighting. They have to adjust sound. And, I think that's
Richie,
part of it.
You have impressively bad vision. How was your experience?
Jesus.
There were some scenes where I feel like it got too close, where it made things difficult to see for a brief moment. But overall, I'm good at making filling in the gaps whenever I see that kind of stuff, which I think was kind of the point in this one. But when there's a few moments when Catwoman and Batman are fighting, and again, I thought Zoe did a really, really good job as Catwoman. I thought she was way better than Anne Hathaway, but I just
agreed.
I'm done. I feel like it's excessive. It's always going to the same 5 characters and all Batman stuff. I'm sick of that crap. but I thought she did a good job.
And another thing on that is I don't even think about the Catwoman with Anne Hathaway because I fucking hate The Dark Knight Rises. So I
too bad. It's too bad it was in a Batman universe.
I mean, no, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that's why Ben Affleck, I can get away why I'm not tired of the same things you're tired of.
I would rather have Catwoman though in every movie because that is correct romantic lore for Batman than just making up something like Vicky Vale.
Chase Meridian.
Vicky Vale from I love Kim Basinger in Batman 1989, but Vicky Vale was never a fucking romantic interest for Batman. She is just the standard Gotham reporter from TV. Like that's what she's always been. And in 1989, they make her the love interest, and then again Nicole Kidman. And I'd rather have Catwoman in there because the conflict of Batman and Catwoman's romance is, and they did that. They did a good job.
They did that really well in this, without ever even really giving it dialogue. It was just the way they would stare at each other. It like every scene they had, it looked like they were about to just break out into a makeout.
We're not gonna see. I don't think we're gonna see Catwoman till at least Batman 3 or a fourth one, if there is a fourth one. She's good.
Let me counter. Let me counter Dancy with this. Did you watch the show How I Met Your Mother?
No.
Okay.
How about Big
Friends?
Bang Theory? Dan,
No.
are you a big fan of that?
How about Friends?
No.
So the problem with shows like that are when they bring the main couple together and then inevitably have to break them up, and then they keep going back and forth with they're supposed to be together, will they, won't they? And then it gets excessive, where shows like How I Met Your Mother should have ended 5 seasons before it actually ended, with the exception of like 2 or 3 episodes. I don't want I can't. You can't have Catwoman in every movie. That's gonna. Just gonna be like, okay, I'm sick of this part at this point. Yeah. Move on from this. Do something different. Just don't put any love interest in the movie and let him just be Batman. And I'm fine with that.
I thought this was a very different Catwoman too, though. I didn't get I mean, really, we see her more as like a cocktail waitress who's really just there to spy on her father.
Well, this is the year 1 Catwoman, is what it is.
See, and I wasn't going to say that. Yeah. I feel like this is a Wizard did it scenario where everything we talk about, we're going to be able to go, well, it was just, they're all young and they're just figuring their stuff out. That was like the big point of the movie. I felt like it's to keep it very grounded. You got to get rid of all the cool toys, basically.
I want to piggyback off of what Miles was asking about the lighting. For me, the lighting didn't bother me because I like the grimy grittiness of the city. I like Gotham being a dead plant, basically. It's been failed. It hasn't been watered in a long time. And even though it's being watered now, it's drowning. It's not getting the nutrition that it needs. And I love that. And I love the fact that it looks like a place that is beyond saving. And so much so that God has sent a flood upon it. So that God, in the form of the
imagery,
Riddler,
I didn't connect that.
Yeah, a flood upon it so that it could be reborn. And so I like that aspect of it. And I don't have a problem with the cinematography at all because I thought a lot of the lighting was done okay. I put that in my like column. I didn't love it, but I definitely liked it. It's just one of those things where it worked for me. And it is very much in the style of, like you were saying, some of the comic books that we've read. And when we first heard about this on the We Are Air podcast, small plug, we said we wanted a movie that was Batman meets Seven. That's what this is. This is Batman meets Seven in a lot of ways. I didn't care much for the killing contraptions. I've seen the rats on the face in Game of Thrones already. Thank you. But
see, I didn't watch Game of Thrones, so I thought that was clever as hell.
You didn't, but here's the thing. You didn't have to sit through Game of Thrones to see that.
Fair enough. That's a
Game of Thrones also has a scene that's very hard to see, or a whole episode that's very hard to see because of the dark too. So
yeah, absolutely.
This lines up.
It opens with incest. That's what Game of Thrones is. It opens with incest.
It does. But yeah, no, I liked a lot of the cinematography. Like I said, it was just the overall story of the movie that I felt got bogged down within its own stuff. Like I said, it's pedantic. It's Matt Reeves masturbating all over Batman, for me, is what it is. And I get it. He's a director known.
I can't wait for the director's cut to come
out.
Oh,
it's going to be amazing. He's known as a perfectionist, though. He's known to do shots 40, 50 times to get them right. I cannot imagine the hell they went through. And you guys heard of all the rumors about Robert Pattinson being a pain in the ass on this movie? Like he fucked Zoe Kravitz on the Batmobile. Like he was not. He refused to get in shape for the role. He just was a pain.
I haven't heard any of that.
I
heard that one of the shots with Paul Dano took like over 200 takes.
Yes, because Matt Reeves is a perfectionist.
Well,
and so that's why this movie comes off a little bit pedantic to me, but he is an auteur. He does do his job. I think that his version of Let the Right One In is amazing. I think his Planet of the Apes movies are really good. I think Cloverfield is good. I thought that was a really, really decent film. So everything he's done up to this point, I've absolutely loved. So to go into this and kind of be like, well, I didn't love it. I liked it at best, was kind of a bummer for me. And I actually went in with lower expectations. Like Danzy said, like I wasn't expecting it to be a masterpiece. I just wish it would have been shorter. That is my biggest complaint. Like you could have trimmed it up. And like it felt like two different scripts kind of going on at some points for me, where they did that with X-Men: The Last Stand, where they literally had two different scripts, the Phoenix and the Cure for mutants, and they squished it together. In some ways, it felt like that.
I'd like to piggyback off that for a second. First of all, Robert Pattinson, fucking Zoe Kravitz on the Batmobile. Love him even more.
Honestly, yeah, props.
I love him.
I can't wait till the VR experience of that comes out.
if that's even true. As far as Matt Reeves masturbating on a Batman film, I don't know what to say to that, other than this is the first. This is the first director that actually knew the source material because he grew up reading Batman. Every other director, Nolan, Burton, I don't even think Schumacher read shit. I just think Schumacher looked at the Adam West show and went, oh, that's Batman. But this is the first director not having to go back and read a comic book. It was always in there. So
yeah,
I think that's why
was one of his teachers in college at one point. Mm-hmm. So like he actually had somebody who wrote Batman for a long time be his instructor. So
maybe that's why it comes off as someone masturbating on Batman. But like if I was directing, you'd probably get the same thing, bro. You probably
lots of masturbation.
Like, I gotta fucking direct Batman. And right, Batman.
Wow, that's weird. I haven't seen this much film adhesive since we shot on film.
I would rather someone masturbate because of the love of the character than masturbate because of the love of themselves. And what I'm referring to is Zack Snyder and that opening title of this is going to be 4-3, the fucking format to instill Zack Snyder's vision. Like right when you start the Justice League Snyder cut, that little thing, that is a director jerking himself off just because he thinks he's so great. And I would rather...
So you're fine if the director jerks off Batman as long as the director doesn't jerk himself off to Batman.
I'm fine with the director jacking off on Batman because he loves Batman than just jerking himself off because he loves himself. That's what I'm fine.
There's some like 7-year-old that just stumbled upon this because it has the word Batman in it. And Ducky's taught them 2 new words, and Dan is given an expose TED Talk on the intricacies of masturbation.
This is sex ed.
Masturbation.
Masturbation. There it was.
Honestly, we should cut the podcast right there, but I'm not smart enough to do so. All right, a couple of things I want to get on here before we make this too long of a podcast. We've talked a lot about the villains. We talked a lot about the filmmaker. We talked a lot about the film. We haven't actually talked a lot about the Batman in this one, Robert Pattinson. I know I'm just going to spoil one of y'all. Literally after, like before I even saw the movie, Dan saw it before me and he's like, Robert Pattinson is the Batman. The cowl is his. Nobody else even counts anymore. Ducky,
I didn't say no one counts anymore. I did not.
He actually burned all of his other Batman memorabilia that day.
No, I still got Kevin Conroy's autograph right there. I've got 4 shelves of Batman. Okay, so I feel like I should go first about that.
Just like in the masturbation.
The thing about the Batman movies is we've always been able to take whatever actor playing Batman and say, oh, he was a good Bruce Wayne, or oh, he was a good Batman, but not a good Bruce Wayne. Pattinson was the first one to go where I went, yeah, he's good at both. He played a really good hermit Bruce Wayne. It's fucking pale, long ass hair, hadn't been outside during the daytime. And then when he was Batman, his voice was perfect. His voice was absolutely not like Christian Bale, where it was like
his silhouette, his jawline and silhouette were also on point. Like that feels weird to say, but that's true.
When you're describing Bruce Wayne, I felt like you're describing Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 3.
Yeah. But
that was a callback to Ducky calling him email earlier. But
no dance number, and he doesn't strike Mary Jane. That would have been really weird if Batman just struck Mary Jane from Marvel.
That's the only reason they that's the first time they did a Marvel DC crossover, and it's just so they can hit a woman.
But no, I thought Pattinson was he the greatest Batman? No, that goes to Michael Keaton. Was he the greatest?
Oh, you definitely told me that you thought Pattinson surpassed him.
Ooh, yeah.
No.
Let's get into this.
No. I said that movie surpassed 1989 Batman for me. I didn't say that Pattinson surpassed Michael Keaton. All right.
Oh, interesting.
As far as Bruce Wayne, though, Pattinson to me does surpass everybody else.
Interesting. Okay.
But as Batman, he surpasses everybody but Michael Keaton.
The Bruce Wayne side of things was one of the things I strongly enjoyed more on my second viewing than my first. The first, it rubbed me slightly the wrong way. The second time I was like, no, for all the reasons we said earlier, it's because he's playing him. He doesn't even feel like a human as Bruce Wayne. That's not who he is.
He feels
which made me like it more. Ducky, what about you, sir? Who if this isn't the Batman, who is?
Oh, Michael Keaton's the Batman, and Christian Bale for me. Christian Bale in Batman Begins and The Dark Knight.
Really?
Not so much The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah,
the voice doesn't bother me.
You gotta sound different than you do when you're Bruce Wayne.
Exactly, and Pattinson did really good. I liked it, and I like what you just said about Bruce Wayne being the actual mask. That makes sense. No, but I thought his performance was good, and that jawline is kicking. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I was a fan of Twilight, so I got gay for him a long time ago.
Done.
You know what I mean? Hi, y'all. Miles, we can talk about my love of Twilight.
The reason Ducky didn't like this movie is because Batman didn't sparkle in the daytime.
It didn't sparkle in the daytime, man.
If they would have just had some sparkle effects, this would have been Ducky's favorite film.
No,
because he can't go outside during the daytime. That's
I think he's been an amazing actor for a long time.
He has.
So he took on a lot of those independent roles, and then he came back and he said, "I'm going to do something big." And I just think that he is a hell of an actor. I've always felt that way. So regardless, and he even hated Twilight. He was just like, "I roll."
We can't judge.
He wasn't even on Team Edward. He was like,
no, he's like Team Jacob all the way.
We can't judge.
Richie, what about?
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Okay, we can't judge people based on their first performance because Michael Keaton was Mr. Mom.
Mr. Mom.
I loved that movie when I was a kid, dude.
George Clooney was on fucking Roseanne. So, if we judge,
and he was great in Roseanne, dude.
And he was terrible in Batman and Robin.
Naming excellent small roles by actors that went on to be major stars.
I'm just saying we can't judge every Batman by the first thing that they did. That's all I'm saying.
Fair.
Go ahead.
Well, Robert Pattinson died in Harry Potter.
But he was great in it, and you felt Cedric Diggory's death. You felt bad for that character.
Yeah, I was saying that was a good movie and good scenes. So.
Was that his first thing?
So, Richie, what about you for is Robert Pattinson the Batman, or who? If not, who is?
I honestly and I didn't watch it a second time, so I haven't got to go back and look at all the finer details like you super nerds have. I felt like he was mostly Batman the whole movie. I feel like he was 95%, even though that's a way overestimate in the Batman suit, and that he wasn't getting a chance to do Bruce Wayne enough. Honestly, the only person I care about as Bruce Wayne is Christian Bale because he made me care about Bruce Wayne. Michael Keaton, everybody else, as a kid watching the earlier Batman movies, I don't care about love interest and that stuff. And even later on, the whole Vicky Vale thing, who cares about that? I just want to see him go fight the Joker in the original one. So in this one, seeing Bruce Wayne do it, I felt like they did a good job of making Bruce Wayne as a pawn trying to draw other things out in this, but I felt like he didn't get a good chance at really getting to play Bruce Wayne too much, except for the scene with him and Alfred in the hospital.
Dude, the scene at the funeral was really good with him. There's several scenes where he's just got the black eyeliner on from when he's Batman, that he's maskless, and those are some of my favorite scenes in the movie on it now.
I just feel like he didn't get enough time to actually portray that character in my eyes. And again, Christian Bale was doing the duality of it, trying to play off this eccentric billionaire and keep up appearances. And I just very much enjoyed that.
Up until this movie, I've always been a Michael Keaton guy. I've always said that he was my Batman. I'm going to say what Dan was not willing to. Robert Pattinson has surpassed Michael Keaton in my eye. I think that just looking at just the character portraying the Batman, Robert Pattinson is the person that has done it best so far.
Can I interject on that?
Of course.
No, let's continue.
Batman's 1989, though. One of the big problems I have of it, it's also the greatest thing about it. The greatest thing about that is it's Batman like 3 weeks in, right? It's Batman 3 weeks in. The problem, though, is that Michael Keaton's Batman is way too perfect. Michael Keaton's Batman knows how to do everything 3 weeks in.
He's way too rehearsed for only having done it for a minute.
Which isn't anything on Michael Keaton and his acting, but
no.
it does. If we're talking like Batman, which Batman is better? Are we talking about which Batman is better or who played Batman better?
I'm saying who played Batman better.
Oh, okay. I still give it to Keaton because of the eyebrows.
And up until a week ago, I was with you. And in fact, up until last night, I was with you.
Keaton had the eyebrows, dog. Like, Keaton had bat-shaped eyebrows for that.
He had to keep his whole body face forward because he couldn't turn his neck, Miles.
Dude, I was actually about to bring that part up. That was actually something I was legitimately about to bring up is, I like the way that this one portrayed, like, the problems with the suit and whatnot, because both of you are right. Dan just brought it up. He was, like, too perfect, even though he was wearing a suit that they acknowledge. He's like, I don't have enough neck rotation. I need to be able to turn more or whatever. Or that might have been the Batman Begins, actually.
That was the Dark Knight. Yeah, that was the Dark Knight. But the one thing I do like is the bad guys finally pulling that fucking cape. And they haven't done that in forever.
That scene was good.
That. I was like, somebody's got to pull in that cape. Come on, just yank them back for a second. And then when they did, I was like, yeah, very nice.
Yeah, that was cool.
I got one more good thing, and I think you will all agree with this. Wasn't it refreshing not to see fucking Bruce Wayne's parents die in an alley with the pearl necklace going down in a rain puddle in slow motion?
Dude, I'll take it even a step farther than that. I love the decision that they never actually finalized or declaratively said what happened. We got what Falcone said and we got what Alfred said, and they both said, I wish I knew for sure. I just only know. And we know that Falcone was lying, but Alfred basically mirrored him in that
I don't know. Was Falcone like?
That's actually, you know what? Yeah, the thing is, you don't really know, and they leave it open-ended enough. Yeah,
but yeah, I'll still stand by the point. But it was still ended up being an important part in the movie to at least discuss the death of the parents.
But they didn't show it, and I think that
you can't show the parents. It's. What did everyone say about Tom Holland's Spider-Man? Thank God we didn't have to see another Uncle Ben dying story. And then eventually we did by the third movie, but it was somebody else.
But we don't see him die. We don't see him die because we know that story. It's just like Bruce Wayne's parents.
They reinvented it as on the Tom Holland one is what I'm saying. Because
here's what's intriguing is they go into the history of Martha Wayne being mentally unstable.
Yep.
Yeah.
And literally the Arkham, which is her family, having to create the Arkham Asylum to keep her in and house her. And that plays into Hush, and that also plays into the Court of Owls. And I won't give away exactly what that is for those who didn't read that, but I think by the third movie, we might get the Court of Owls reveal. And I think that would be badass because they have not done that in the films yet. And we've already seen the layers of the Court of Owls kind of here with how the families are. And the four main families were the Waynes, the Arkhams, the Cobblepots, and what was the fourth family, Danzy? Do you know?
Oh shit! Fuck, you put me on the spot. Okay,
yeah, it's okay. My bad.
You're not the real super nerd you portrayed yourself to be.
No.
I'll look it up.
Fuck. No, I know this.
The family name was Fuck.
The Waynes, the Arkhams, not the Dents. No, one of them becomes a fucking Batman villain, and I can't fucking remember.
Cobblepot.
No.
All right, I got it. It's I'll give you
the Crown.
The Crown family.
The Elliot. There's 5.
There's 5. There's more. You're right. I apologize.
But the Elliot.
God, both of you get your nerd cards revoked.
But but that was another thing I liked. That Thomas Elliot's father wasn't a big thing. He was just a reporter in this movie, and then that's how they teased Hush. And if you, I don't know if you guys saw it, but as the Riddler showing him that movie with or whatever, it says "hush" in the corner.
Yeah, it actually has the word "hush." It's not even on the corner, dude. It's full screen.
Yeah.
It's in your face.
So I think that we're going to get that within the next 2 to 3 movies because Matt Reeves wants to do a trilogy. So, I mean, I'm on board for a trilogy. I like Richie said at the beginning. Do I want to see another Batman? I don't know. I felt like this one was kind of the end of it, but I felt that same way when I saw The Last Jedi. I was just like, I'm good on Star Wars at this point. But it was more of a disappointment thing where I was just like, I'm good. I don't need any more. But if you can buy me back, like Batman Begins wasn't the greatest movie ever, and then you come back with The Dark Knight, maybe Matt Reeves introduces his characters here, and then he goes on to make the greatest Batman movie of all time. It's a possibility. It could definitely
I definitely see a comparison between Batman Begins and the Batman. Like I could definitely like different styles, obviously, but like a good introductory movie for a new trilogy. I'm down for that.
Absolutely.
Oh no,
Best Picture though? Best Picture?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
Absolutely not.
Do you just want every Batman movie to be Best Picture?
Actually, wasn't Batman 1989 nominated for Best Picture?
I believe it was.
Was it? I'm pretty sure comic books have traditionally always just been ignored at the Oscars.
I believe it was for score.
That's a big debate right now about comic book movies getting shut out of Best Picture with all the Spider-Man buzz going on lately. So
I don't know if it wins, but I do think it gets nominated because great choreography, great cinematography, great choreography, that dance number they had, great editing, great sound design. I think it does get nominated for Best Picture at least. 89
did win. It won a Best Art Direction set decoration.
Oscar. I knew it won one. I don't think it was for Best Pick. I mean, I don't know. It's been since 1989, guys. I knew it was nominated and it won for something. So
and Jack Nicholson was nominated for Best Actor in a Supporting Role for the movie. So.
Oh wow,
that's not Best Picture though.
Yeah, that's still because I think Heath Ledger won posthumously. Dan, help me out. Thank you.
Thank you, Miles, for being the same as me. Couldn't say
it. That's the real reason we brought Dan on, since he's clearly not a real Batman fan.
No. Dan killed it on this.
Guys, was there any, I think we've pretty much tore this thing apart in every possible way. Is there any other thoughts or any other thing about the Batman that either of you wanted to say before we wrap things up?
I did have one issue.
Oh, yeah.
So
it was too short. Yeah, you already
no, and when Batman and Catwoman get on their motorcycles, I noticed that Batman's motorcycle had bat ears, and I was like, "Come on, really?" Like,
because it's the start of year 3, Dan. Come on.
No, but like the Batmobile was just a Camaro with a jet engine on it, and then at the Bat motorcycle, he was like, "Oh, I got to put bat ears on this so people know it's me riding." It's just like, homie, you're Batman. It's just like that's when he started, when he was making that Batmobile. That's when the branding hit him. You know what I mean? Like he was like, no, I gotta put the trademark on there, Alfred. Yeah,
I gotta inspire ears.
Yeah. That was my one little.
It's all about merchandising, guys. It's all about merchandising. That's how he keeps the Wayne fortune intact.
Mm-hmm.
They got to rebuild, right? Ducky, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I want to give away the rest of the stuff I love, just so we can end on a high note on me. Number one thing, Zoe Kravitz in her underwear. Just throwing that out for a shout out for the perverts out there.
That scene was dark.
I enjoyed beating up the thugs.
Yeah, they should have lit that one better, actually.
Yeah. Beating up the thugs was great. The thumb drive, I get it. It's the only piece of humor that worked for me. Batman gets the bat shit kicked out of him, which I thought was really cool. And I really enjoyed Avocado Head in the beginning of the movie when he gets hit by the car and robs the place. I thought that mask design, the Halloween mask, were a lot of fun. So other than that, the rest of it was shit, and I can't wait to see it again.
Richie, anything else you want to
add? Ducky doesn't sound like he's done.
Oh, no, I'm joking. I'm just joking. It's a fine movie. It's a 6 out of 10 for me right now.
All right, don't worry. You'll get your shot in the next Batman movie there, Joker.
Yeah.
And every other movie after that with Batman on it. So, final thoughts. From when Robert Pattinson was first cast till now, I think we can all agree that, well, maybe not Ducky, that I'm good with the casting by this point.
Yeah.
He did a good job from the second the first trailer released. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And it's kind of like when we saw Ben Affleck beating down people from the first Batman Superman scene, but then that was the only good part in the whole movie. I'm good with this. I still feel like there's too many villains. I still feel like on the other side of that coin, again, it's a noir detective story. You have to have that many suspects or it's not interesting. If there's only two different suspects, it's a 50-50 shot. I'm just upset with the outcome of who the rat was at the end. But in a real world situation, it makes sense because it's going to be somebody with all that power and control. I like the idea of what you guys are talking about with the underwater city. And honestly, from all the cartoon shows you watch and the video games you play, Two-Face and Penguin usually have their own rival gangs that may work together but probably won't. So that makes sense with an underwater city that they have different outposts. So I can see where the story could go forward. It's just my thing again is like, are we really ready for a third Two-Face in a Batman movie, a third different version of Two-Face in a Batman movie? And like something I applauded this movie for doing was doing a character like the Riddler, who, Jim Carrey, I did a crazy good job in it, but like I'm glad that we didn't do one that was already done a bajillion times. So I get the trope of Batman. He's got his core group of villains. That's what everyone wants to see. But you guys are hinting at some more obscure villains that aren't as well known, but are kind of well known. And I hope Matt Reeves, being a fanboy of the series, continues to go in that direction so he can show us something new that we've never seen before. That's what I really want out of all this. And Batman gets more refined with each movie, which will make it more enjoyable as well.
Do we count Aaron Eckhart's Two-Face? Because
I love that.
Well,
yes. Well, you guys can't keep saying we don't count things just because you don't. You played Two-Face.
I'm not saying he was bad, but that Two-Face was only there for like 20 minutes.
Yes,
it was a very short amount of time.
I think that is the Two-Face. I don't think Tommy Lee Jones is the Two-Face.
Tommy Lee Jones though did an excellent job.
Do we count Tommy Lee Jones because he didn't even like the character?
Okay, Tommy Lee Jones did a bad impression of the Joker, dude. No, Tommy Lee
Jones was great.
No, he was terrible.
For not wanting to be there and hating Jim Carrey, Tommy Lee Jones did like a
I think that fueled the character is how much hatred he had for Carrey.
No, he was terrible.
But also, there's a director's cut of Batman Forever where Two-Face escapes Arkham, and there's this whole dark thing for like an hour that hasn't been released. So there's like actually more Tommy Lee Jones and like character building with that Two-Face that we.
I would love to see. You can actually see that online, Danzy, if you want.
No shit.
Yeah, really? It's actually on YouTube. You can check that out.
Don't give him more masturbation.
Yeah, it is on YouTube. It was part of the deleted scenes.
Dude, I'll be honest. I think one of the greatest like losses we had in terms of when Burton lost the Batman franchise is he had spent two movies setting up Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent and had every intention. In fact, Billy D. Williams was I remember like actually notably angry about it because he had agreed to take on the Harvey Dent role in a lesser way for those first two Batman films with the intent of playing Two-Face when that character became Two-Face. And the fact that they just pulled that out from under him and gave him to Tommy Lee Jones, I think is a travesty because Billy D. Williams had like love for the character and had intended to play him. So I feel like we had a great loss with that. I thought that Tommy Lee Jones as a kid, I loved him because I didn't know any better. I think that learning about that feud was one of the more interesting things about that movie as an adult. I think that Aaron Eckhart's Two-Face was fantastic, but I do kind of agree with Dan. It's not like it was over. We weren't like, we didn't spend a lot of time with that character. We barely got a taste of him. If anything, it would have been more interesting to see him come back, but the whole dying at the end tends to not let that happen sometimes. But for me, I love the Batman. I liked it more the second time that I watched it than the first time. It's one of those movies that, even though I know Ducky strongly disagrees with this based on his comments earlier, I don't feel like it's too long. Neither time I watched it did I feel like I was like, oh my God, this is a 3-hour movie. In fact, the first time I was genuinely surprised when I realized the movie was coming to an end because I was like, oh my God, has it already been 3 hours? I was expecting this to be a long movie. And it's also, I'll say, after the first time I saw it, I'm like, that was good, but I wonder how this is going to be on like rewatchability because I've watched most of the other Batman movies probably 10 times each easy. And after watching it a second time, except for that one. Literally, that's the one exception. Even the 1960 Batman, I've probably seen that many times. I know the Dark Knight Rises I've seen 3 times. I saw it in theaters and I hated it, but I thought maybe my expectations were just off. So then I saw it when it came out on Blu-ray and I hated it even more. Then I was just like, okay, I'm just going to take a break from that movie. And then when I was doing an entire Batman rewatch, I decided to give it another try. And this was at least 8 years later. And I hated it again to the point that I vowed that if I ever watch the entire Batman series again, I will just skip that one because it ruins my day.
You watched it 3 times too much. You shouldn't even You shouldn't even seen it the first time.
Versus, no joke, if I didn't have other stuff going on, or if I had the ability to, like this weekend, and somebody was like, "Hey, you want to go see the Batman again?" I would legitimately go see it again because I'm like excited to watch it again.
Miles, we're going on Sunday, so if y'all want to go see the Batman,
let me know when and where. If I'm available, I might come with you.
Let you know,
it comes out on HBO Max April 22nd.
Nice.
Okay, so I at this point we'll see if I pay because I am a cheapskate, but I am excited to see it for a third time. Absolutely. But guys, I think that's going to do it for our coverage of the Batman. This was a great conversation. I'm so glad we were able to get both of you guys on. You both have podcasts. Dan Danzy, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and your podcast online?
Counting Lights Podcast with wrestling and comedy. I love how I got into fucking sell out plug mode right there. Counting Lights Podcast with wrestling and comedy. Lock Up can be found on Anchor, Spotify, Apple, and Stitcher. If you enjoy wrestling, if you enjoy stand-up comedy, this is the place for you. Counting Lights Podcast.
Also, Red Nebula Pictures on Twitch. He's been playing those games and doing Nerd Alert with the wife.
Yeah, no, I should plug me and my wife's shit before I plug me. Yeah,
I love watching Nerd Alert. Like
it's your wrestling wife, Chris Germany.
Dude, it's freaking awesome.
Yeah, Twitch.
You should introduce him to people that way. I'm sure he'd love that.
Twitch.tv, Twitch.tv/Red Nebula Pictures. We're playing Horizon Forbidden West, and starting tomorrow, since I can actually stream it now. No, I'm sorry, the 11th, we're going to be streaming WWE 2K22. I got early access to it, but wasn't able to stream it because 2K were being dicks. So March 11th, WWE 2K22, and also Destiny 2, The Witch Queen.
Hell yeah, dude. Ducky, you've got a whole podcast network situation happening over there. Tell us about it.
So we are Podcast Network. We have 5 or 6 different podcasts now. We have We Are Air, where we talk movies, entertainment, whatever the fuck we want to talk about. I believe Danzy's going to come on our Batman podcast too. You guys are welcome to join once we do that. We'll try to sync that up, and we can talk it all over again if you want. We have We Are Bagoo, which is a video game podcast. We have We Are Endor, which is a podcast about Middle Earth. So we do hobbits and orcs now. We just do all kinds of stuff. And then you can follow us on social media at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at /We Are Podcast. And then me and Maz are on Camp/Warcast every Monday at 8 p.m. live on Twitch, twitch.tv /We Are Podcast Network. We talk horror movies. We are going to be talking Deathbed with Barry Whitewater this upcoming Monday. After that, we got some more stuff coming up. So you guys are always welcome to join us anytime. You know this. I've always invited you on. So anytime you want to come on and do the podcast, please do. It's funner with more people. And Danzy, one of the greatest moments of the podcast we ever had was when he did his rebuttal. Oh my God, because we were ripping on Danzy hardcore because of Children of the Corn. He's like,
I wasn't there. I wasn't there.
And I was like, dude, it's
you
not
look
fair.
like the kid from Children of the Corn.
Yeah, and it wasn't. He's got it his whole life, dude. His whole life. So I'm like, come on, you get to roast these motherfuckers. And his roast was epic. So it is clipped on the Twitch channel, and it was one of my funnest moments we've ever done on the podcast. So thank you again, Dan, for doing that. That was great.
Anytime.
Yes, it's so great. So thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it, guys.
Thank you guys both for coming on. You guys are both a lot of fun. Definitely look forward to talking to you both again in the future. Richie, where can they find all of our stuff online?
You guys can follow Miles at Mr. Most Days Off. You can follow me at @TheWiz_Kid23. Most importantly, you can follow our show. That's more important than these other guys too. Our show is at Best Darn Diddly. That's DIDDLY. If you do check out Ducky's podcast, there's an episode called No Malum, which is going to probably be their most downloaded episode.
What a terrible movie.
I still can't believe Richie fell for that rib when I invited him on for that movie.
Oh man, we had fun though. We had fun. We always have fun, so that's the key thing. So, yeah.
Guys, thank you all so much for joining us today. As always, we appreciate you tuning in to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show, or Best Darn Everything on whatever nonsense we happen to be talking about. Make sure you come back again and join us next week. Richie and I are going to be talking about the return of Silent Bob on the Silent Bob. Oh my God. Sideshow Bob.
I was like, I want to come back to that one.
Smith joining our podcast. Return of Sideshow Bob on the next Simpsons episode we're reviewing, which is the Day of the Jackanapes.
Do you guys know what it's called when Batman skips church?
What's that?
Christian Bale.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Bravo, bravo.
And until next time, be cromulent to each other.
Be cromulent to each other. I love that. Do you say that every